Hello and welcome to the third and final installment of CAD Dimensions What's New in SolidWorks 2013. My name is Franco Rotoli. I'm here with Lars Christensen. Again, this is the third installment. If you missed the previous two Lunch and Learns, they are up on our website and you are more than welcome to watch them from there, and I believe they are on our YouTube channel as well. What we're going to cover today are appearances and photo view. We're also going to cover some drawings and detailing, as well as some a nice surprise at the end of the presentation for what's new in SolidWorks 2013. So let's jump right in and get started. The first thing I want to talk about is in SolidWorks 2013, SolidWorks partnered with a company called Luxology, and they make a product called Moto. Moto is a photorealistic rendering package. What they've brought to SolidWorks is really amazing in SolidWorks 2013. The images that you can create both with photo view and just regular with real view are the images are amazing. You can see from the PowerPoint here just the two pictures. We're going to jump into SolidWorks. It really gets into some really nice rendering as well as just visualization of your products. Much more lifelike, and on the photo view side, we have faster, higher quality renderings because we partnered with the Luxology. So let's jump into SolidWorks here. And we have this assembly of a desk. You can see there's some textures on there, or some decals on there and things like that. I'm just going to open up this desk part in its own window. And this is a multi-body solid. The first thing I want to talk about is we know that a few years ago they've been making a bunch of enhancements to the textures and appearances, things like that. I want to make sure real view is on, which it is. I'm going to add some textures to this desk. We're going to make it out of wood. We'll just make a nice cherry desk here. And it doesn't really matter which one I pick. I'm just going to do polished cherry. When I drag it over to my part, we're familiar with this dialog box that comes up. It's either I can add it to the face, the feature, the body, or the entire component. Well, new in SolidWorks 2013, they added this pin button. And what that does is it keeps this dialog box up. I'm going to add it to the body here. We'll drag and drop it one more time. I'm actually going to pin that as well. We'll drag and drop this one more time, and now you see I don't get that dialog box here because it stays up here and it remembers that I added it to the body. So I can very easily drag and drop these very quickly. Now another new feature in SolidWorks 2013, if I zoom into the corner here, you can see that it's scaled these textures depending on the body size. Well, sometimes that's good and sometimes it's not. In this case it's not, because I want to make sure that the desk looks as though it was all cut from the same piece of lumber. So in Tools Options under Document Properties, we have under Model Display, we now have the checkbox automatically scale appearance textures to the model size. Now we have the ability to uncheck this. By default, in earlier versions of SolidWorks, this dialog box or this checkbox wasn't there. It was just automatically, it automatically did this behavior. So now if I uncheck it and drag and drop this again, we can see that it actually uses the default scaling of the texture. There we go. We can see that it uses the default scaling of the texture. This actually still has that, that face selected. So let's go into my textures here, and I believe it's this face. We'll just delete this one. Okay, there we go. What happened was when I dragged it the first time, it selected the face, and remember we still have that hierarchy where face overrides body. That's why it didn't look like it was changing. So again, this looks much better now. And again, with this appearance target box pinned, I can very easily apply these textures to the rest of my model. If I go over here, we also have the ability to copy and paste textures. So if I just click on any one of these faces, we now have copy appearance and paste appearance. So if I copy the appearance here, I can paste it there. And again, because this is pinned, I can very easily apply these textures to my entire model. Now again, because it's in here, I can very easily go in here and edit one of these. So if I want the grain going in the other direction, I can very easily do that. If we go back to my assembly, we can see that it comes through here. I can also copy and paste appearances from the assembly, and it does stay up. So if I copy that appearance, I can paste it right here, and you can see that it pastes it to the entire body. So really nice feature that they've added in SolidWorks 2013 if you're adding materials or textures or any sort of visualization properties or appearances. Very nice, handy way to do this. So that's that for applying textures and appearances. If we jump over to our actual appearance database, let's take a look at some of the new appearances that they've added. If I go into liquids, you can see they've added all sorts of liquids from milk to blood to beer, orange juice, gasoline, all sorts of really nice appearances. And these are just in standard SolidWorks. They come automatically when you install SolidWorks. So I have an orange juicer here, which I'm going to go ahead and apply this orange juice texture to the liquid in the glass. Okay, some other added materials that they have. If I go into glass, we have glossy, textured. We also have thick gloss, which represents things like glass block or things like that. The translucency is appropriate for there, and the refraction is appropriate for those. If I go into my plastics, we also have waxes, which is really nice. You saw that on the PowerPoint slide. That gives you a matte finish, kind of a matte finish with glowing edges, which makes it really look like wax. It's really nice. Again, there's a ton of new materials in there. I don't have time to go through all of them. But let's go. Also, we'll talk about the Luxology site. If you are on subscription, you have access to the Luxology site through the customer portal, where you can download all sorts of different materials that are photo rendering only. So these only show up in PhotoView 360. But it's really nice. They have hundreds and hundreds of materials that you can add and textures that you can add. I have a few of them here. If I scroll down, you can see under my Luxology appearances, we have old maple bark, coral, which looks great, hard candy, incandescent paint, orange skin, which appropriately enough, I have an orange here, and I can actually drag that right to that face. And you can see here that I do get a message when I drag it to that face that you're applying a Moto material. It looks different in SolidWorks than it does after you render it in PhotoView 360. I'm going to say OK to that. And let's go ahead and go to my preview render, because I just want to show you how good this looks. As this starts rendering, you can really see some of the good visualization. Did you know that I can move my mouse around a certain area of it and it will actually focus the rendering on that? You see everywhere else is paused except around my mouse. So again, up here is the Luxology material, the orange skin, and down here is the real view material of the orange juice. And so you can see it really shows very nicely. As soon as I stop moving my mouse, it renders the rest of the scene. Let's zoom in real quick to this orange peel. I want to just show you how good this really looks and how realistic we can get our renderings. Again, there's not a ton of work that's been done in the background here. I'm not trying to do any smoke and mirrors or anything like that. It really just looks this good. The rendering package in SolidWorks 2013 is very nice. Okay, so that's the preview window. That's the Luxology stuff. They've also made a ton of enhancements to the final render engine in SolidWorks 2013. So let's go ahead and I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint. I have a video because I'm not going to do the final render real time because obviously it's going to take too long. So I have a video here that we're going to play, and you can see that kind of picks up where we left off. This is the final render window. You see it has a ton more information in it. And along the bottom you can also see preview pictures of our last few renderings. Also in SolidWorks 2013, you see the squares that are actually rendering the model. There are blue squares and orange squares. It's tough to see on the projector, or excuse me, it's tough to see on the video, but the blue squares are actually network rendered. So you can actually assign different computers for network rendering. You can also load images into your preview window, so you can compare different images. You don't have to just have them rendered in photo view. You can compare different images. They've also added an image processing center where you can adjust things like color balance, gamma, black level, gray level, hues. You can adjust all sorts of different things. So here we can see the color balance. And you can also adjust the lighting and saturation. This eliminates the need to export it out and go to a different package, and again, it keeps the rendering quality high. Here we can see that we also have a slider that we can compare two images, so pre and post image processing. So you can see the slider is really, really nice. You can also, so here you can see the difference between the two images. So this is the wipe, and we also have a spotlight version, so it'll basically follow your mouse around. Really nice enhancements to SolidWorks 2013 rendering. Again, if you have any questions, please give us a call. We'll be happy to answer any questions regarding this. So I'm going to pass it over to Lars. He's going to talk about drawings and detailing and some of the really great enhancements to drawings and detailings in SolidWorks 2013. Take it away, Lars.
Thank you, Franco. So some really neat appearances and some really good looking models there. I'm going to talk a little bit about drawings and detailing. So let's shave 1D off and go from 3D down to 2D. So SolidWorks keeps on developing on these things too, and I think that you will see here some of the neat things they've done. In a previous webinar, Franco was talking about how the drawings view are now utilizing multi-core. So if you have multi-core machines, what I think more and more people are having, your drawings will update quicker and stuff like that. But also when we get into working with our standard drawings tools, I think you will see here that SolidWorks have done some nice things. They're keeping on building on this. So let's jump into SolidWorks. So I got this part here, and one of the things we have in here is balloons. So we got the standard balloon, we got the AutoBalloon. In my case here, I have added it to my S key. Same thing. But the standard balloon in here have gotten a couple of new balloon text items. So one of the ones is a file name. So if I go in here and click on a part here, you will see that it actually gets the file name right from this part. Not the Z:\\, but actually, you know, a nice appearance of the part name. Another thing, I got a bill of material over here. If you have that, you can actually also get the part number in here. So that's another nice thing that you can, you know, use that to mark your parts. Something that is not new for 2013, but I'd just like to remind people about is that SolidWorks did borrow the format painter from Microsoft, so we can go over here and actually use that to quickly make our balloons appear the same as other balloons in our text. So that's a nice little way to do that. Another thing, if we go over here and look down here, I got some balloons already created in here. Now, if we look at this, we can see the sequence here follows from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10. If I go in and actually open up this assembly here, you will actually see that I got a folder here with some additional components that is suppressed. If I unsuppress that, you will see that I get a bunch of fasteners, and I also get some gears and stuff like that. Now, if I Control Tab and goes back to this drawing, of course SolidWorks will update everything, and we will now get these new items in here. But obviously they will not be ballooned. Now, if we go into the AutoBalloon tool, and I don't know about you, you know, anytime you see an icon that has a magic wand or have a lightning or something like that, or called auto, I'm always a little bit like, you know, the software is now going to take over, and a little leery about that. But SolidWorks have done a nice job with these things, and they actually added some functions to it that is really, really handy. So if I go in here and I select the auto ballooning, now most people will think that, all right, the auto ballooning is fine, now it's just going to throw a bunch of balloons everywhere. What it does in a pretty good way, but it can actually also be used as such a thing as resequence balloons in here. So if I just went in and just added a couple of balloons to some of the new components that I just added in here, something like this, we will see that they're out of sequence. But if I now go into my AutoBalloon tool and I use this resequence order sequentially, you will now see that it actually added, rearranged all the numbers. Now, I don't know if people remember last year that SolidWorks actually introduced this magnetic line here. They took that out of Composer, that you can snap things around. So I can just go up and snap my two balloons. That one actually have a couple of different options. This is not new. We can make them equal, or we can free drag them here. So if you haven't used that magnetic line, it's actually also sitting right up here. I'll definitely encourage you to do that. Now, another thing we will see here, I just placed these balloons and I got them into sequence, but we actually see that I have other components in here that do not have balloons on them. Because I haven't placed them. You can actually also use the AutoBalloon to replace balloons in here. So if I go in and replace balloons, it will just throw in a bunch of new balloons in here. And again, I can order those sequentially, and now I'm back down to having everything in here ballooned, and everything is set up with a magnetic line. And really quickly, I think we can get our drawings in a nice order. So a couple of new things a couple of new items to the standard balloon, and then the AutoBalloon got these two new functionalities added to it, where we can resequence and we can replace, so we get balloons on things in our drawing view that do not still have balloons. So a couple of neat things, I think, when it comes to that. All right, let's jump over and look at another model here. So I got another model here. Couple of new things in here too when it comes to detailing in here. So let's go up here. Now we have been able to in the past to do baseline dimensions in SolidWorks. Let me just delete these out here. So I'm just gonna window them and delete them. So baseline dimensions is if you right click and you go down to more dimensions, we do have the baseline dimensions. And baseline dimensions is a nice way to pretty quickly get some dimensions put on our drawings here stacked up. So that's really nice. Now, if I hit escape here and go out of the tool, new for 2013, what I think is really nice, if I go in and right click here, there's actually now an option to add to baseline. So if you forgot a couple of dimensions, or your model changed or something like that, you don't have to just delete and start over. We can actually just go in here and add baseline dimensions, and you will see automatically SolidWorks is actually just adding those to that whole baseline here. Another thing that is not new, I just also wanted to add, is don't forget that we now have this little fly out window that when we highlight dimensions here, that little right above my cursor, we hover over that one. SolidWorks have given us new ways to align different things in here, so we can pretty easy align dimensions up in a certain order. All this can be controlled from your system options right up here. So just a little note about that. So just so you're aware of that. All right. Other things, something that is not new, but if I go into this drawing view here, we can go in here, and if we go into annotations, we can create center lines, and we can create center lines on the entire view straight out of the box here. Now we got all these center lines. But what is new in 2013 is that if I go in here to my document properties and actually go in to my center line in here, is that center lines have now got their new place on layers. I don't know how many people using SolidWorks who's using layers. I know there's a lot of we're a lot of old AutoCAD users, and we used to use layers all the time, right? But I think that many people don't use layers in SolidWorks. But layers is fine to use, and layers is definitely, there's nothing wrong with using that. One thing they've added is if I right click on this center line here, I actually have a new layer icon I can go into, and this new layer icon will bring us right into our layer selection tool, and we can go in here and you can see all the different layers right in here. So that's just a new thing that they've added, a shortcut by right-clicking here and going to layers. And then, like I said, have gotten their own center line and stuff. But layers is actually, if you right-click and you go into up here and you go into all your different menus, layers is actually a toolbar you can turn on. So if you don't use layers, definitely, why not, right? If you wanted to. Another thing that SolidWorks have done that is pretty neat, if I go in and I open up actually this model here, let me just open up this model. I think we have more and more of our customers who is used baseline dimensions. So, you know, we model our parts to nominal, but we actually do have options to apply tolerances right inside of when we input our values, right? We can over here input tolerances. So this can save us, you know, that we're having all the information in one place. Now on drawings, one of the enhancements that they have done in 2013 for drawings is that if we look at this dimension right here of the 53, now this dimension here, we have 4 decimal places. What means that when it gets out to the manufacturing floor, we might find that the machinists or the tool makers, you know, will take that extra decimal into consideration and think that this really needs to be accurate. But a new thing that they have done in 2013 over here on the dimension property is that we can actually now link the dimension to what we actually have in our model. So in my model, I'm only going 3 decimal places, and now this one here is 4, but as soon as I link precision in the model, you will see that it jumps to 3. So this is really neat too, that how you can, you know, store your data inside the 3D model and actually bring it over to the drawings. And I'm going to come into talk about model items in a few minutes anyways, but just so you know that you now have that little checkbox down there. It's pretty neat. All right. Next thing we'll look at over here is there's a couple of new things also when it comes to with different annotations and dimensions over here and stuff like that. One of the new ones is leaders. Now if we go into leaders in here, we have had break lines in SolidWorks for a number of years, but now they're actually giving us a couple of new checkboxes: break extension lines or break dimension lines. And they've done this because companies got different standards and stuff like that. So if I check these two here, you will now see that I do have here, I have the break here, and it will also update through my actually annotation lines here too. So that's another new enhancement they have done in there. Another thing that is kind of, you know, many times it's the small things that really makes life easy. One of the other things they have done now, if anybody's doing GD&T, well, I know we have a lot of people that does, a new thing that they have done is they have given us a below the frame. So now we can actually go in here and type something in like C note 3, and you will see that it appears in here. It takes the leaders and shorten them up, and you know, it's just like one of these small things that many people are fighting with that we now actually have as an option in here. So a couple of new things right here that we kind of like can work with. All right. I'm going to go in here I have another detail view in here, so I'm just going to open this one up here, and let me just drag in a couple of views here so we have something to look at. So I'm just going to drag this in here, and I'm going to drag this one in here. So a couple of new enhancements in here too that is worth talking about. One of the ones here is I was talking about before, model items. So model items is not new. We can go in here, we can hit model items, and we can now bring in all the dimensions that we had we used to create our model, right? So if I check that here, we will get a bunch of different dimensions in. This is really a quick way, get dimensions in. We can sort them, we can move around, we can, you know, delete the ones we don't want. We can also move dimensions, you know, from one view to another with the shift key and stuff like that. But they have added, I'm just going to do a Control Z here and undo to get out of this here. They have added a couple of new things to the model item menu here. So what they have done here is, this is the one that it defaults to, marked for drawings. But another one they've added in here now here is tolerances for the dimensions. So before I showed on the model how we can, you know, how we can use the model items and put the tolerances on our 3D model. This button over here will now only bring in those dimensions that actually has a tolerance on it. So this is really neat if you're like, you know, creating inspection drawings or something like that, that you now can you know, when you're modeling your part up and you say, all right, this is what we're going to use for inspection, you put the tolerances in on your 3D model, then now you can actually also sort through and just bring that in there. So I think that's handy. Another thing that have been added to the model items tab in here is the center of mass that Franco was showing earlier, that we also saw in assemblies. So if I insert that, we'll see we get that in here in the drawing view. And just like as we were working inside of parts and assemblies, we can of course go in here and place dimensions in here too, from the center of mass and out to there. So I think that that's a really neat new enhancement right there. Okay, let me just jump back to our other view over here. I'm just going to do another model item here, and I'm just going to select, say, selected features, and let me just bring in this one here. Another new thing, and this I think is like one of those that people is going to be really excited about. So talking about dimensions in here, so we are familiar with in SolidWorks that our arrowheads on our dimensions always stay to the outside of the arc. That's how that works in here, and have always worked in SolidWorks. Well, 2013, now we don't have to worry about that anymore. If we go into options and we go into our document properties, dimensions in here, and we go to our radius, we now have an option in here that is called smart arrows attached to arcs and points away from dimension. This now means that our arrowheads will now always stay on the same side as our dimension. This should really clean up your drawings a lot easier, getting that arrowhead following along there. So that's definitely one of my favorite ones in here. Another thing that we have gotten in here that is new for 2013 is if I go in and select the note in here, you know, I can now start adding stuff in here right from my keyboard, of course. But a new for 2013 is this. You can now zoom in and out. Now, when we did the rollouts, me and Franco, half the room would applaud, and the other half of the room, I think, was like me, that they was just kind of like looking and thinking, why is that such a big deal that we can now zoom in and out while we are editing a note? The reason is that in this case like this, we can say break all sharp edges, and we can actually now zoom out, and we could actually select a dimension, and that will be brought right in there. So that's one of the neat things about that. So yeah, a lot of people was really psyched about that little enhancement right there. Another thing they have done is if you go in and you create any kind of border around your text, you can now add a padding to it. So like if I go in and select this A here, I can now go in and create some kind of a square around it, and we now also have an option to actually add some padding, so it will kind of like that box will control that too. So that's another little new enhancement. Another one is if we have a table on our drawing here. So this we've always been able to grab this and move it back like this, and everything would kind of like order as we're making the cells smaller. But what did not work was when we moved the cells out again, it will stick like this. They have finally fixed that in 2013. So now you can see how the text is updating there. So that's another nice little one that they have added that. So I think that they have done some really nice small enhancements with that kind of stuff to deal with. Okay, let's go over here back over to our detail view over here. So there's a couple of more enhancements I just want to show here before we wrap this up. Another thing, and this is huge. Another thing that have been added this year is that they have actually redone the section view. So anybody who's used SolidWorks for a long time knows how section view works. You click on section view, and then you get the line tool, right? You sketch a line, and then you go ahead and get your section view. Well, new for 2013 is that the section view has actually been revamped. You can see over here that the menu looks a little bit different. Of course, anytime you see one of these yellow boxes in SolidWorks, it's telling you what it's looking for. I think this is a really neat tool, and definitely something you need to just play around with a little bit. But what is really neat about this is, look at, I get this line up here. So I'm not sketching a line anymore. But what is really, really cool about this is it snaps to geometry. Right, so I mean, I can zoom in here and you can see how it just snaps up to the geometry. Get a little window up here, I can hit the green check mark, and bang, I got my section view just like that. So this tool here is really, the new section view tool is really neat to work with. Same thing, if I go into section view here, you see how I get the vertical line. If I go over here, I get the horizontal line. We can also go in and make multiples. You know, there's a lot of different options in here, but just to show you quickly, if I go in here and I maybe snap to this center here, I can actually now go in and say that I want to, just from this little menu here, say that I want to make a single setup like this. And now when I click here, I actually get that section view created right here. So some neat stuff. This is really a neat little tool to play around with. It has some really nice options here, and I think it's one of those things that you're really gonna feel pretty quickly the use of this tool and how easy it really is to work with when you're working with it. That's definitely going to make things faster. One of the questions that Franco had was, well, what happens if I still need to go in and edit the section view? You can still right click on it and go in and edit sketch. So it's still a sketch line in there that you can snap to all the stuff, but you know, I think that you will find with this new section view tool here that that it's going to pretty much do everything you want to. And you can also do half sections, by the way, too, up here. So that's an extra menu over here. Anytime you see a question mark with a star inside SolidWorks, tells you that's a new feature for that release year. So that kind of like gives you some a little bit of additional information about it and stuff like that. So definitely worth checking out here. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit, delete my section views here quickly here. All right, so that is pretty neat. Now, another thing that have been done in here is that if we go in here and we click on a drawing view like this here, we're pretty familiar with this whole dialog box over here, right? It works pretty neat. Now, new for 2013 in here too is that it's actually a save view as. And if we click on that one, we can now save this view out as a DXF or a DWG. So this is really neat stuff if you are doing, you know, if you're having any router or lasers or something like that. I'm just going to throw it on my desktop here, DXF or DWG, whatever you want. So anybody who's using routers or lasers should really find this function here really helpful. So save that out as a DXF. Don't forget that you know, we got our free draft site. I don't know how many people have gone out and got draftsite.com, gone out to draftsite.com, sorry, and got draftsite. That is an AutoCAD free viewer that Dassault, and we're going to reactivate later, Dassault offers. So just so you know, if you haven't grabbed it yet, it's out there. So now we can actually go here and we can find our desktop, and let's see this DXF. What's what I saved it out as? Oops, not DWT. So let's see here, desktop, and there's our DXF. And you can see we can bring it in here. So that's a really neat function, I think, in SolidWorks, that we can now, you know, save those view out. Now, talking about saving views, there's actually also another enhancement in here that I think is very neat. And that is that we can now right-click inside of a view, and there is actually in here now a function that is called Converts View to Sketch. Now, this is pretty neat. If you click on that, you get a couple of different selection in here. Again, don't forget about the question mark with a star. So you can place the view with a sketch. Let's turn it into a sketch. What I'm really thinking that I'm just going to show you here is replace the view with a block. Now, I think this is very interesting, because if I do that, that means that my view now is going to become a block. And what I can do if it's a block, well, if it's a block, I can right-click on it, and I can save that block out. So if I say save, and I save that out to my desktop. It's block 1. Now if I go in and open up a new part drawing here, so we in here and I open up a new sketch, well, with a block, now I know I have a block, I can go up to Tools, I can go into Sketch Tools, no, sorry, I can go down to Blocks, I can go in here and say Insert Block, and now if I browse out to that block we have out on our desktop, there's the block. You will see that I get this block in here with all sketches, and now where it's a block, as some of you guys will know, we can now explode the block, and now we actually got real sketch geometry in here. So I think this will be really neat if you create some crazy detailed view where you actually need to use, because we can use this to extrude and make 3D models. Maybe you get a detached drawing so you don't actually have the model. Well, now you can go out here and do this here. So that's really neat too. The last thing I just want to show on drawings here is also just a little thing, is I got this note here, and that is actually on my sheet format. So I'm just going to right click, edit sheet format, bring back to my sheet format here. This note, there's a new option also here in 2013 that we can choose to display behind sheet or in front sheet. So that's a new thing too. So if you have these type of watermarks, that now you can choose if you want the part to lay on top of it, or if you're going to be able to see through it and stuff like that. But I think overall that I have to say that with drawings this year, that that they have really done some really nice stuff when it comes to this, and given us a lot of new, very neat functions to make our 2D drawings go quicker. So I think that that's definitely very, very positive. That's kind of like wrapping up drawings and detailing. So I hope that you definitely found that there were some neat functions in here. If you do a lot of drawings, I think you will find a lot of these helpful. Thank you, and I'm gonna now turn this over to Franco. Here you go, Franco.
Thank you very much, Lars. Lots of great information on drawings and detailing, as always. Okay, and for the last thing, new for the 2013 release of SolidWorks is a powerful new capability that has actually been released in SolidWorks 2012 SP5 for customers on active subscription. It's called Previous Release Interoperability. As the name sounds, it allows for interoperability between different versions of the software. Now let's take a look at how it works. Here, we're in SolidWorks 2013. We can see that we have an assembly that's comprised of components that are also designed in SolidWorks 2013. We know this because looking at the save icon, we don't get the notifications telling us that files are older and will be converted as saved. The assembly also contains several standard mates used for positioning. In this case, we've designed a belt cover for a motorcycle transmission. We're using the latest version of SolidWorks 2013 to take advantage of all the great new tools. However, we might need to collaborate with vendors, suppliers, or a customer who might be on an older version of the software. In this case, the gasket designer and manufacturer, who's still using SolidWorks 2012. Now let's take a look at how previous release interoperability allows us to collaborate. We'll close the files in 2013 and open SolidWorks 2012. When we open one of the part files in 2012 that we created in a newer version of the software, 2013, we're presented with a notification reflecting that the component was designed in a newer version of the software. Once the file is open, we can see immediately that we have access to all the solid geometry. We can zoom, pan, rotate, just like a normal SolidWorks file. However, when we look at the Feature Manager design tree, we can see that there are a few changes. Though the system planes, origin, and materials are here, the features have been replaced with a future version file icon. This will prevent any possible issues for new or changed features in the software that have previously prevented this type of collaboration. Next, we'll open the assembly to see how it's different. When the assembly opens, we're presented with the same notification as before. In this case, we can see in the assembly tree that the components have themselves been replaced by future version icons. Though the assembly contains the mates that are keeping the components together, though they are unfortunately uneditable due to compatibility between versions. So, how does the user using 2012 benefit from this? In our case, we need to design a new gasket, so let's start a new assembly. Immediately we can see that we can insert 2013 files we currently have open in our 2012 assembly with no hassle. We can interact with these much like we would any other file inside 2012. In this case, we'll add a few mates to position these components properly. You'll notice we can mate to geometry or planes or origin if desired. We've seen that it's possible to work with these 2013 files with SolidWorks 2012. Now let's take a look at a part that's been designed in 2012 to see how they interact with each other. We can see immediately that we can easily intermingle these files from different versions in the same assembly when we drag and drop this gasket into the assembly. We can manipulate the future version files using all the tools we're used to, such as tabbing to hide. We can then proceed to mate the 2012 components to the 2013 parts without any issues. Once these components have been completely mated into place, we'll save the assembly. Now that the assembly is saved and all the components are mated together, we'll look at where previous release interoperability really shines. This is the capability to design components within context relationships between versions. This gasket design is far from complete, and it needs to be changed to fit the cover. We'll delete this thin extrude feature and create a new one. We can start sketching right on the faces of 2013 just like we would any other part in SolidWorks. We can then proceed to use common tools like convert entities to capture both the outside and the inside profile of the rear cover. All that's left is to extrude the sketch to create the gasket feature. Once we've finished with the design changes, we'll turn all the other parts back on and save and close the assembly. We're finished in SolidWorks 2012 and we will now return to SolidWorks 2013 and open the same assembly we just finished. We can see that when we return to the current version the parts were created in, they return to standard SolidWorks parts and assemblies. All the mates we added to the assembly and the features with their in-context features added to the 2012 part come across just as we would expect. This is great in that it allows the user in SolidWorks 2013 to continue the design process in the latest version of the software. So as we've shown, previous release interoperability allows for an unprecedented level of collaboration for users of different versions of the software. Now you're not necessarily forced to upgrade just because one of your vendors or customers is upgraded. You can continue as long as you're on Service Pack 5 of any release. We'll open the next release's files. Okay, well, that's it for our presentation. Thank you very much for attending. For those of you who attended all three, again, thank you very much for attending all three presentations. This final presentation will be up on our website shortly, so if one of your coworkers or something like that missed it, you can always direct them to our website. Again, all three of these presentations are only a scratch on the surface of what's new in SolidWorks 2013. There are over 200 enhancements. Please, I encourage you to download it or download the What's New document or contact us. We can send you the What's New document. I'll leave the forum open for questions. If you want to use the comments or the questions dialog on the web meeting, please feel free to type in your questions there. We'll stick around for a few minutes to answer those questions. Thank you.